Have you noticed something strange lately? Not in your body, not in your knees when you get out of a chair, not in the mirror. I'm talking about something much quieter. The way time feels. Because one day you're 55, thinking you still have plenty of years ahead of you, and then somehow you're 68, standing in the kitchen, staring out a window you've looked through thousands of times, wondering where the last decade actually went. And if that thought hit a little too hard, stay with me. And if what I'm about to say feels familiar, maybe leave a like or subscribe. Not for me, but because sometimes the hardest thing in the world is realizing you're not the only man carrying these thoughts alone. Now let me tell you something I've learned after years of listening to people talk about aging. The men who stay young the longest are rarely the men with the best genes. They're not always the healthiest. They're not even always the strongest. They're the men who never quietly retire from themselves. Most people think aging happens in the body first. It doesn't. It happens in identity. It begins the moment a man stops expecting anything meaningful from tomorrow. And that shift is so subtle most never notice it happening. Maybe you've experienced it. You wake up, you follow the routine, coffee, breakfast, a few errands, a few conversations, a few television shows, a few hours disappear. Then another day is gone. Nothing terrible happened, but nothing truly happened either. And that's the danger. Not tragedy, not illness, not failure. The slow disappearance of anticipation. Because when we're young, we are pulled forward by something. A dream, a relationship, a challenge, a future we're trying to reach. The human brain loves movement toward meaning. But many men between 65 and 75 unknowingly stop creating new destinations. They start living almost entirely from memory. The old stories become safer than new experiences. The past becomes more exciting than the future. And that's when something inside begins to dim. I once spoke with a man who was 72, sharp mind, good health, financially secure. From the outside, he looked fortunate. Yet he said something that stayed with me. He looked down at his hands and quietly said, "I don't feel old, I just feel finished." Finished. Not tired, not weak, finished. And the moment he said it, I understood what was really hurting him. He wasn't mourning youth, he was mourning possibility. There's a difference. Most men don't actually miss being 25. They miss feeling that life was still unfolding. They miss the excitement of not knowing what's around the corner. They miss believing that a random Tuesday could change everything. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Many men stop looking for those moments long before those moments stop existing. Life doesn't close the door, they do, gradually, without realizing it. Because disappointment teaches caution, loss teaches caution, heartbreak teaches caution, retirement teaches caution, the years teach caution. And caution slowly becomes a prison disguised as wisdom. You stop calling people, you stop trying new things, you stop risking embarrassment, you stop risking rejection, you stop risking failure. Then one day you look around and wonder why everything feels smaller. It's because your world became the exact size of your comfort zone. And comfort is often where youth quietly goes to die. Not physically, psychologically. The men who stay vibrant at 70 aren't necessarily preserving their bodies better than everyone else. They're preserving their curiosity. They still ask questions. They still get interested. They still allow themselves to be surprised. And that may sound simple, but psychologically, it's one of the most powerful anti-aging habits a human being can possess. Because the moment you stop being curious, you stop participating in life. And when that happens, the calendar becomes heavier than it actually is. The years feel longer, the days feel shorter, and without noticing it, you begin counting down instead of looking forward. The question is, have you started doing that? Or is there still a part of you, maybe a quiet part, that refuses to believe your story is already written? Because if that part is still alive, everything changes. A few years ago, I sat across from a man who had just turned 70. He smiled often, made jokes, talked about his grandchildren. If you met him for 5 minutes, you would have assumed he was happy. But people reveal themselves in strange ways when they feel safe. At one point, our conversation drifted into silence, and then he said something so quietly I almost missed it. He said, "Nobody needs me anymore." Not in an angry way, not in a dramatic way, just as a fact. Or at least a fact he believed. And I remember thinking how many men carry that exact feeling without ever saying it out loud. Because there is a loneliness that comes from being alone. But there's another kind, a deeper kind. The loneliness of feeling unnecessary. For decades, your life may have revolved around responsibility, building, providing, protecting, solving problems. People depended on you, your decisions mattered, your presence mattered. Then life changes. Children grow up, careers end, roles shift, the phone rings less, the requests become fewer, and suddenly you're left with a question that can be surprisingly painful. Who am I when nobody needs something from me? Most men never prepare for that question, because during the busy years, identity feels obvious. You're a father, a husband, a worker, a provider, a leader. But underneath those roles was always a human being, and sometimes that human being gets forgotten. You spend so much time becoming useful that you never learn how to simply be alive. That's why some men retire and flourish, while others retire and slowly disappear. Not because one has more money, not because one is healthier, but because one knows who he is beyond his usefulness, and the other doesn't. Now here's where things become uncomfortable. Many men believe staying young means holding on to relevance, trying to prove they still matter, trying to prove they can still keep up, trying to prove they still have value. But the men who age with the most grace do something different. They stop performing worth, they start living it. There's a huge psychological difference. One is exhausting, the other is freeing. Think about it. How many years did you spend trying to earn your place in the world? Trying to be enough, trying to achieve enough, trying to provide enough, trying to become someone worthy of respect. And after all those years, did you ever stop and ask whether you were allowed to exist without constantly proving yourself? For many men, the answer is no. That's why stillness feels uncomfortable. Because stillness forces a confrontation. Without the job, without the status, without the responsibilities. Who are you? Not what have you done, not what have you built. Who are you? It's a question many people spend their entire lives avoiding. And yet the men who stay emotionally young often answer it. Not perfectly, but honestly. They discover new parts of themselves that were buried beneath obligation. A love for music they ignored, a fascination with history, a desire to travel, a passion for teaching, photography, writing, gardening, mentoring, learning, creating, things that have nothing to do with proving value and everything to do with experiencing life. Because here's something I wish more men understood. Your purpose at 70 should not look identical to your purpose at 40. It shouldn't. Growth requires evolution. The tragedy isn't changing. The tragedy is refusing to change because you're still trying to be the person life no longer requires you to be. And that resistance creates suffering. The world moves forward, time moves forward. But internally, you're trying to live inside an identity that no longer fits. Like wearing a suit tailored for a younger version of yourself. Eventually, it becomes uncomfortable, then painful, then impossible. The men who remain youthful aren't fighting reality every day, they're participating in it. They allow themselves to become someone new, even now, even after all these years. And perhaps that's the real challenge, not staying young, but staying open. Because the moment a man becomes emotionally closed, the world starts shrinking around him. And when the world shrinks, life begins to feel much older than it actually is. There is something most people never tell men about aging, not because they're hiding it, because many of them don't see it themselves. The greatest threat to your vitality after 65 is not age, it's predictability. And at first that sounds ridiculous. Predictability feels safe, comfortable, efficient. You know where everything is, you know what your week looks like, you know what tomorrow will probably feel like. No surprises, no complications, no unnecessary stress. Sounds ideal. Until years pass, and suddenly every day feels strangely similar. The same roads, the same conversations, the same routines, the same thoughts, the same version of yourself repeated over and over. Human beings are creatures of habit, but we're also creatures of discovery. And when discovery disappears completely, something important begins fading beneath the surface. I remember talking to a man who had spent nearly 40 years working the same profession. A disciplined man, respected, successful. After retirement, he did everything he was supposed to do. He relaxed, stayed home, watched television, took care of chores, avoided stress. For a while, it felt wonderful. Then one day he woke up and realized he hadn't felt genuinely excited about anything in nearly 3 years. 3 years, imagine that. Not devastated, not depressed, just emotionally flat. Like life had slowly lost its color. And that's what predictability often does. Not all at once, gradually. It drains novelty from experience. The brain is fascinating this way. When we encounter something new, something meaningful, something unexpected, our attention sharpens. The world becomes vivid again. We notice details. We become present. Time feels richer. But when every day becomes identical, the brain starts running on autopilot. And when life is lived on autopilot, entire months can vanish without leaving much emotional memory behind. Have you ever noticed that? A week from childhood can feel larger than an entire year in later life. Why? Because childhood was filled with newness, new places, new people, new experiences, new emotions. The mind was recording everything. Now compare that to a routine repeated hundreds of times. The brain stops paying attention, not because life has become meaningless, because it has become familiar. And familiarity, when taken too far, creates emotional numbness. This is why some 70-year-olds seem astonishingly alive. Not because they're pretending to be young, not because they're chasing youth, because they're still collecting experiences, still exploring, still learning, still placing themselves in situations where they don't already know the outcome. There's a kind of courage in that, a quiet courage, the willingness to remain a beginner. Many men lose that willingness, not because they're incapable, because being a beginner feels uncomfortable. It threatens competence, it risks embarrassment. And after a lifetime of mastering things, starting over can feel humiliating. But here's the irony. The activities that make you feel inexperienced are often the exact activities that make you feel alive again. Learning a language, joining a group, taking a class, traveling somewhere unfamiliar, meeting people outside your usual circle, trying something you've always postponed. Not because you'll become an expert, because you'll become engaged. And engagement is fuel, psychological fuel, emotional fuel, the kind that keeps a person vibrant long after others begin withdrawing from life. I've seen men become younger at 72 than they were at 62, not physically, energetically. Their eyes changed, their conversations changed, their curiosity returned, their sense of possibility returned. And it all began with one decision. They stopped asking, "Am I too old for this?" and started asking, "Why am I still waiting?" Because if we're honest, many of the limits people blame on age are actually permissions they never gave themselves. Permissions to begin again. Permissions to look foolish. Permissions to be interested. Permissions to be excited. Permissions to feel something new. And maybe that's what's been missing. Not youth, not energy, not opportunity. Permission. The permission to believe that life is still capable of surprising you. Because the truth is, it is. The question is whether you've become too predictable to notice. Can I tell you something that might make you uncomfortable? Some of the men who fear aging the most aren't actually afraid of getting older. They're afraid of becoming invisible. And those are not the same thing. Because aging happens to everyone, but invisibility, that feels personal. It shows up in small moments. You walk into a room and realize people don't notice you the way they once did. You share an opinion and it doesn't carry the same weight. You see younger people moving through life with a confidence that reminds you of someone you used to be. And for a second, just a second, you wonder if your most important years are already behind you. Most men would never admit that out loud, but I've heard versions of it many times. Not because they're weak, because they're human. There is a grief that comes with realizing certain chapters have ended. A grief for the strength you once had, the opportunities you missed, the relationships that faded, the dreams that never happened. And if that grief isn't acknowledged, something dangerous begins to happen. The past starts becoming more attractive than the present. You revisit old memories again and again, not because you're grateful, because you're hiding there. And that's when nostalgia becomes a trap. Now, don't misunderstand me. Memories are beautiful. They're part of what makes life meaningful. But there is a difference between visiting the past and living there. One brings perspective, the other steals your future. I once spoke with a widower in his early 70s. His wife had passed away several years earlier. He loved her deeply. You could hear it every time he spoke about her. For a long time, he believed moving forward would somehow betray what they had shared. So he stopped expanding his life, stopped meeting people, stopped making plans, stopped imagining new possibilities. Everything became organized around preserving what had been. Then one day he said something remarkable. He said, "I finally realized loving my past and living in my past are different things." That sentence changed him, because grief isn't only about losing people. Sometimes it's about losing versions of ourselves, the younger man, the stronger man, the man with more time, the man who still believed certain things would happen. And many men spend years secretly negotiating with those losses, trying to reclaim what can never fully return. But youth was never the source of your value, and this is where many people get stuck. They confuse attention with significance. They confuse attractiveness with worth. They confuse visibility with meaning. Yet some of the most powerful men I've ever met were in their 70s. Not because they commanded attention, because they possessed presence. And presence is different. Presence doesn't demand recognition. It doesn't compete. It doesn't chase. It simply exists with depth. You can feel it immediately. A calm confidence, a grounded perspective, a kind of quiet strength that only comes from surviving life honestly. Young people often mistake power for volume. Older people eventually learn that real power is steadiness. It's the ability to sit with uncertainty without panicking, to face loss without becoming bitter, to experience change without collapsing into fear. That kind of strength is rare, and strangely enough, it often grows with age, if you allow it to. Because every difficult year has been teaching you something. Every disappointment, every heartbreak, every setback, every moment you thought you wouldn't make it through. Those experiences left scars, but they also left wisdom. The question is whether you've started seeing those years as evidence of decline or evidence of depth. One story shrinks you, the other transforms you. And the older you become, the more important that choice gets. Because eventually, every man decides what his years mean. Either they become proof that life is ending, or proof that life has been teaching him how to truly live. I want to leave you with a thought that has stayed with me for years. Not because it's clever, not because it's profound, because it's true. The human spirit does not age the way the calendar does. The calendar counts years. The spirit counts engagement, meaning, connection, purpose, wonder. And that's why two men can both be 70. One feels old, the other feels alive. The difference isn't the number, it's the relationship they have with the life still in front of them. If you've made it this far, I want you to picture something. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning. Nothing dramatic has changed. The same house, the same face in the mirror, the same responsibilities, the same age. But one thing is different. You stop treating your future like a shrinking resource and start treating it like a living chapter. What would happen? Would you make that phone call you've been postponing? Would you reconnect with someone? Would you take the trip you've talked yourself out of for years? Would you join the class, start the project, learn the skill, tell the truth you've been avoiding? Would you finally stop waiting for permission? Because waiting becomes a habit, and habits become identities. Then identities become destinies. Many men spend their later years waiting for motivation, waiting for certainty, waiting for the perfect moment, waiting to feel younger, waiting to feel ready. But readiness is a strange thing. Most meaningful experiences don't arrive after readiness, they create it. You take the step first, then confidence catches up later. You enter the conversation first, then connection appears. You start the journey first, then clarity emerges. Life has always worked that way. Even when you were young, you just forgot. And maybe that's what staying young really means. Not preserving your appearance, not pretending you're 30, not denying reality. It means refusing to surrender your capacity for engagement, refusing to become emotionally absent from your own life, refusing to let fear disguise itself as wisdom, refusing to let comfort quietly replace possibility. Because here's what I believe. The most attractive quality in any human being at any age is aliveness. Not perfection, not status, not youth, aliveness. The ability to remain interested, to remain curious, to remain emotionally available to life, to still find beauty in ordinary moments, to still feel gratitude, to still laugh deeply, to still care, to still dream, and yes, to still begin again. I think that's why some older men have a presence that draws people toward them. They aren't trying to prove anything, they aren't fighting time, they aren't chasing yesterday, they're fully here. And being fully here is rare. You can feel it when someone has it. Their age becomes secondary, their energy becomes unforgettable. So if you're somewhere between 65 and 75, or even approaching those years, remember this: your story has not become less valuable because it has become longer. In many ways, it has become richer, more textured, more honest, more human. There are lessons inside you that younger people desperately need. There are experiences inside you that no book can teach. There is wisdom inside you that was earned 1 year at a time. Don't spend the years ahead mourning what has passed so intensely that you miss what is still possible. Because possibility has not disappeared. It has simply changed shape. And perhaps tonight, after this video ends and the room becomes quiet again, you'll sit there for a moment, maybe thinking about the years behind you, maybe thinking about the years ahead, and maybe, just maybe, you'll realize something. You are not being asked to stay young. You are being asked to stay alive. And those two things are far more connected than most people ever realize. If this message found you at the right moment, let it stay with you for a while. Not as motivation, not as pressure, just as a reminder. There is still life waiting for you, and it would be a shame to stop meeting it halfway.